Subsection 12.1 Infil/Exfil. As it was said in the Twitter/X post, there are many factors that go into infiltration and exfiltration of an idea. This is where we will be discussing them. We have a few topics for today. Your location, transport, be they cars, trucks, or aircraft. Your team size, which is a very important element. Your local situation. Is there ongoing local unrest? Is this a high population haven that makes dealing with para-threats or rogue elements unsatisfactory? There's many more things. We are going to focus on the previously mentioned items in no particular order. Your location is very dependent on many things, and your location for initial recon should be the safest one. The best gunfight is one you are not in. The second best is the quickest shootout with the least casualties involved. A basic pointer noted in the field team guide and touched upon in a few areas is how to gunfight, which is something we will quickly touch on right now. These few pointers are as follows. Drive your guns with your eyes. Do not scan with your rifle or pistol. Your eyes move at an approximated 1,000 degrees per second, which is faster than your body can turn. When moving, transitioning, or turning, be sure to use your hips and quads instead of your core. This results in a quicker, more stable, and accurate movement. Focus on your memory, often misleadingly called muscle memory, but is actually called neuropathic memory. This is also known as proprioception. A great amount of repetition causes this buildup. Please practice repetitively and properly in order to accurately deal with para-threats and rogue elements. Be sure to sweep your safeties and target center mass. When not directly engaging a para-threat or rogue element, please be looking for more cover and targets. Now that we have touched on that, let's move on to your infiltration now that we have got the basics out of the way. If you are infiltrating an urban environment and extracting an HVT using a vehicle, there are main three factors you want to focus on. Your path of entry, your possible exits, and any places potential targets and para-threats can come from. Please use drones, satellite imagery, or maps to get an idea of your location and situation. What is your path of exit going to be? Are you going to directly drive out, or are you taking some sort of sub-route out? Think about this in your pre-planning and make sure your driver is very well associated and knowledgeable of the intended maneuver. Your last factor you're going to want to focus on is what will you do along with your team if you receive a mobility kill on your vehicle? Plan for the worst, ladies and gentlemen. If you're working in a more rural forest environment, the factors you're going to want to focus on are vastly different. Your terrain, environment, and more. If you have access to drones and satellite imagery, use these to see how far you can effectively use a scope or binoculars out to get a better view or a vantage point of any details you want. The further away you are and the more concealed you are, the higher your chance of survival. Now, this may seem quite fast and feel like it's not a lot of information, some of it potentially obvious even. But these are things that a lot of the new strike team members may not know about or think about much. For your transport, what kind of vehicle are you taking? What is the rank angle on the windshield? Can it off-road if it is necessary? How many people can you carry? Will you have one vehicle or multiple? To start, a rake angle is a simple term. This is the angle of your windshield. An SUV windshield has a shallow rake, whereas a more sports-like car has a steeper rake. This has effects on your points of impact if you're forced to shoot out of the windshield in case of hostile threat. Be aware that depending on the rank angle, your bullet can rise up to 1.5 feet within 5 yards of your aim point. Be advised, when shooting through windshields, they can either explode or powderize depending on the type of windshield, and the powders when breathed in are discomforting, and when getting into the eyes cause major pain. A note to make that we see a lot of the less initiated members of strike teams try and attempt is muzzling the windshields or windows. Don't do this at all. If you're doing it with a handgun, you will cause a malfunction, and with a rifle, you could get debris in your barrel. Further transport details. If you have a second vehicle or more following you, what formation do you plan to use? Do you know these formations? An offset which is your secondary car being a half-length offset from the primary and behind. A linear, which is your secondary car being directly behind your primary car. Or what is called a screen. Your secondary car would be a half car length alongside your primary. Which one? They all have their uses for scenarios you should think about and play in your head when planning your recon or extraction of HVTs. Your local situation is not something the field team guide can factor in or talk about in any great detail. This is something you must take into account and use critical thinking skills to assess along with your best judgment along with team input. Lastly, to wrap this up as quickly as we can, and just as we're mentioning it, you have your team. The usual strike team for an urban vehicle/infil exfil related mission is simple. A minimum of 4, ideally 5 to 6 people. A driver, your team lead in the passenger seat, then 2 or 3 more men in the back. If you have a 4-man team, your team leader will act as front security for the vehicle along with the driver. One person will be rear security. Then you will have what we call a miscellaneous man. If you're extracting an HVT, he will be your doorman to go and grab the target. If this is a simple stop and check recon of location idea, he may not even step out to take his note and look. This is variable. If you have a 5th man, he will replace team lead as front security, and the team lead will help your doorman/recon man. That has been the basics of subsection 12.1, Infil/Exfil. We apologize for this seeming haphazard. The field team guide is a horrible mishmash of groups between Special Air Service, the United States Army Rangers, the United Nations Global Occult Coalition's own special units, as well as the French Special Operations Command. We thank you for your time, and remember, the 5-fold mission is not complete without unity and freedom.